Welcome to Tri-State Triumphs, everybody. We are pleased to be joined by the 50 greatest high school football players in the history of the state of Iowa. That, according to the Des Moines Register, 2007 state champ at Keokuk High School, former University of Iowa starting quarterback, four-time academic All-American, Hunter Fisher, father extraordinaire, and right now a financial advisor at RBC Management in Cedar Rapids, and general all-around guy, James Vandenberg. And James, first of all, great to you again. Looking great. I know it's been kind of a charmed life as a high school, college guy, and now in adult life, it seems like you've really found a lot of joy and success in your second act. Kind of how have you gotten from point A to point E here, just so everybody kind of understands your journey?
Yeah, you bring up a great point. It's one of the first things that I think I kind of embraced, especially you go to college football and then very briefly messing around in the NFL. I mean, you get this sense that 4 to 6 years to 8 years of your life is just a little blip. So I always kind of wanted to think about the big picture and think about, I mean, what am I going to do in my late 20s, my 30s, my 40s? So that's helped with that transition. But I just feel really fortunate on how I was raised, quite frankly. Football was a huge deal. I love football. I still love it. I miss my teammates. But at the end of the day, I've always kind of looked forward to getting a job and building a business and having a family. And so I'm just getting to turn my focus to a little bit more of that stuff now.
From a standpoint of, I know you have a white-collar job, but you were raised in a very blue-collar environment, just in terms of what Keokuk is and what it draws from people. And I have to think so much of your success, James, comes from being surrounded constantly in your life, hardworking people who always held you accountable. How key is Keokuk to not only your success in football, but beyond?
Oh, you can't describe it enough. I mean, the friends that I had and the group that I got to play with and the people that supported our group are, literally what propelled me to be able to do what I was able to do. It certainly is not a James Vandenberg show. It's, all of those relationships, all of those people that helped raise me, coach me, baseball, basketball, football, is the culmination of what I was able to accomplish. I got to be the shining beacon kind of at the end of that sword. But that sword contained a lot more people than just me, and most of that was Keokuk. A lot of that was my dad was in the military. We moved around a bunch. But from the end of elementary school on, that was Keokuk. And those relationships are literally, kind of formed who I am today.
Football is really hard, especially playing quarterback, which is as hard as it gets in the business. But from the standpoint of not only been a talented guy, you were always kind of a cerebral guy. And I think that quarterback thing fit, didn't it? The demands of testing yourself at the highest level, because I think that certainly is what evokes a lot of your success.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into playing football no matter what position you play. I wasn't athletic enough to play many other positions, so it worked out that I was on the cerebral side. But it's one thing where just every level you go up in sports, that progression becomes a bigger and bigger part of the game. And you see that from going from middle school to high school, freshman to varsity to Division I to NFL. And it's something that I always kind of enjoyed. I guess I feel lucky that I found enjoyment in understanding the X's and O's and the defenses and so on and so forth. A lot of people don't enjoy that, and that's not right or wrong, just something I kind of enjoyed.
I find that sort of applicable to the life you have now, because I think so much of life is adaptability and your ability to roll whatever happens. You were great at that on a ball field, but you're working in a pandemic in finance right now, which can't be easy. Do you see a lot of parallels, things you learned to football apply to where you're at now?
There's parallels to work. There's parallels to being a husband. There's parallels to being a dad. I've read a lot of Navy SEAL stuff. In every single book you see adapt and overcome. My greatest influence is probably my grandpa. And I can remember from the time I was 5 years old, I remember fishing with him when I was too afraid to even hold the fish. And he would just beat into my head, patience and perseverance pays off every time. And that's so relevant to sports, but it's so relevant to life. And so it's just those little things sports teach you. And now that I'm a dad, I realize how many things I've learned from sports. They teach so many good fundamentals that you can take on to being a dad, to being a husband, to being an employee, to being a business owner, to being a friend. And so I guess that aspect of it is just something that sports helped shape in my life.
One of the things we're using this series, James, is to help younger people understand that regardless of where they come from, they're only limited by the scope of their dreams and their hard work to get there. And one of the things I think was also impressed upon you very early to be a good person, regardless of how high you climb. And I think that's applicable today. Some business relationships you probably amassed today go way back to the fact that you were a guy that people liked and could respect and had a certain character, even when you were the quarterback of the University of Iowa. Do you find that? Do you find it's really important to be genuine to people, regardless of how high you rise?
Yeah, 100%. I think of it now in my work life. No matter what you're doing, whether you're managing $1 million, whether you're leading a Division I program, whether you're the high school quarterback, whether you're just a student, relationships are what drives the whole world. And my relationship with my head coach and my relationship with my employees, I mean, I want to know that somebody's a good person. And then the other stuff comes beyond that. But if they can't check those boxes, I personally wouldn't be attracted to it. And so I hope I try to, I guess, represent that, because I want people to know that I care about them. I care about their family. I care about their grandma, so on and so forth. Then the financial side, or then the football side, comes after that. But I guess I always kind of hoped I wouldn't be, thought of as, oh, that's the football player. That happens, of course. But for people who know me, I hope that's not the first thing that pops into mind. And I don't think it is. And that's just something, once again, it's luckily the group of friends I was with and how competitive and humbling it was being with a lot of successful people. None of us wanted to stand out that much. It was always more of a group thing. And then how I was raised, my grandpa, who I referenced, my parents. Sports and having success in sports was a pretty big deal, but not, when I think of, I joke a lot about like quarterback dads. Everybody kind of knows that term. I had the least quarterback dad you could ever imagine. My dad is so laid back, and yeah, he would always ask me to go throw. Let's go do drops. But it was always me who drove it. He didn't come to practices. He missed games. He was not the over controlling it, and he never once said, football's everything, or you got to get a scholarship, or you got to throw 4 more touchdowns. It was never about that. The success kind of just happened. It was, hey, you play football, be a good teammate. Let's learn the offense. If you want to be good, you need to work.
I think that's still applicable today, because I know as easy as you made quarterback look, James, there were countless hours that went into that, and that's part of being coachable. And I'm sure you didn't just enter this sector of your life, especially being a father, thinking you had all the answers. It's all of being coachable, regardless, isn't it?
Yeah. Coachable. It's one of the first things I do with anything I've done in football and or now post-football life is there's something I'm trying to do. I want to go talk to whoever I think is the best at that. And then I want to hear exactly learning from people is the quickest way to grow, because somebody who has 10 years experience can teach you things in 6 months that you would have had to wait 10 years to do. So yeah, you got to be coachable. If you want something, you have to be willing to be flexible and give up a little bit of your pride and work with other people. And you got to realize that there's a synergy that comes out of that you can't really put a value on.
I know it was all, get away from it all, distractionist type stuff. But and I know you've always loved the outdoors since you were little. But how much of that do you think helped you learn other things about who you are? Because it's not easy to go out and sit with a bow and wait. It's not easy to win the fish to bite. How much of that kind of has shaped you and made you a better person? Just patience inherent in all that.
Yeah, I think there's a patience aspect of it. There's also just a challenge aspect of it. Watching the Michael Jordan documentary that just came out, you can't tell me that he doesn't love golf because it's so impossible to be good at. He's clearly addicted to hard things. And I guess I've always just, things I want to do, if they're hard, that makes them more enjoyable. I don't know what it is about it. It's something to where I know that I can try my absolute best, but at the end of the day, I need a little bit of luck and I need a lot of work and time. It was an escape, so that's how I've used it through the more stressful times of my life is I can zone out. I can get away from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, news, whatever it is. I mean, none of my places even have phone service. I hunt. So that's an added benefit. But I think more of it is just, it's kind of having a passion for outdoors in general. I love hearing birds. I love hearing the leaves. I love the fall. I love the first frost. And then the challenge. It's kind of a combination of those two. And then it happened to also be a good escape during certain times of my life.
From a standpoint, and you touched on it, how old are your kids now, James?
3 and 1. They'll both this summer. So my daughter will turn 3 actually on Wednesday. My son will turn 1 in July.
Those are such fun ages, and you know there is a lot to come, and you kind of already have alluded to it. You were around absolutely great, stable, wonderful parents who got it around sports, particularly in the fact that your parents demanded academics first, regardless of how good you were as a football player. How much of that do you anticipate? Do you look forward to it? Do you even start thinking a little bit now about being a first of all, you're a girl dad. I know that to some degree as well. But do you think about the future as a dad in sport, now getting to see this whole journey from a different vantage point?
I've thought about this so much, Chris. And I thought about this pre-having kids. And then now that I have kids, I would tell anybody and all my good buddies now that have kids, I mean, I love being a girl dad so much. For whatever reason, there's this inherent pressure out there, I think, when you've had success and you have a son. And I think it's completely unfair. I love sports. They did something awesome for me, but am I going to be I will not let myself be the quote unquote QB dad, because I don't believe in it. If he wants to do it, awesome. But being a girl dad and now being a boy dad, I mean, fatherhood, it doesn't get any better. Over Father's Day weekend, my son actually just started walking, so now we're fully mobile.
Awesome.
COVID was the greatest excuse to potty train my daughter, so we're adapting there. There's nothing that beats fatherhood, and I hope they're attracted to sports because, one, it's difficult, and two, I'm just a big believer that you need to fail, and sports give you a nice opportunity to fail and pick yourself up and go forward. And so I'll encourage it from that standpoint, but after that, I mean, I'm going to dictate the values I want them to live the next 80 years by, not just what I think will help them through middle school, high school athletics.
Last one for you, good sir. Again, we've certainly appreciated time, but you touched on what sports have given you. From a community pride standpoint, you and that group in 2007 had a chance to give Keokuk maybe one of its proudest moments, if not its proudest moment, in the history of the town, really, just because that was a chance for Keokuk to stand at the center of the Iowa world and be recognized. And I know you have 13 years to kind of, wrap that around your head. Looking back now, I know you guys had the reunion and all that stuff, and that's great and all, but it's that sense of community pride that emanated from it, that dome being packed with purple. The people who put out their chest and wore those shirts around town to this very day. Yeah. Do you realize now just how, because I know in the moment you can't at 18, but do you realize how special that was for that community, and how much pride does that give you in just being where you're from?
Well, I don't think I still even grasp how big of a deal it was, just because I haven't lived back there. But certainly going through that, and certainly now when I come home and I see my old teachers or my old coaches or just people, I mean, it always brings a smile to my face on how positive of an impact that had on little kids that want to be James Hurt or be Logan Granera or be Trevor Galbraith or Cole Lockwood or Kyler Barnes or whoever. I mean, little kids that now have that to kind of aim for. I absolutely love hearing that stuff. When I think of kind of what that group really did, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. I mean, I think of how many good people came off that team. And a lot of those people stayed in the community. Some of those have left, some have moved. I've moved 90 miles away. I still get back a lot though. I mean, but it created a lot of good people in the community, a lot of good coaches that are now coaching athletics. I mean, Kyler is coaching at the high school. I mean, you got all these guys who are involved that they're great athletes. They've been to the highest level of the athletic side, but they're better people, and they're going to help shape good football players that hopefully are going to be good people that are going to be recycled back into the community. So I think that's hopefully the biggest lasting impression of it. The trophy's cool. I'll look forward to the next reunion, so on and so forth. It's funny how quickly people age in 12 years. Some of my buddies
You
look
still
like
would though, sir.
Yeah, well, I'm hanging in there, but it certainly makes me smile thinking, I mean, the people I got to meet, the guys I got to play with, and kind of the small little impact we got to have there over a couple of year period.